The ancient city of Neandria, or Neandria in Greek, is just 20 kilometers from Ezine, near the village of Kayacik, on the peak of the Çığrı mountain, which is some 500 meters above sea level. The name Neandria means young man, or homeland of the young man in ancient Greek. The site is not particularly well signposted and not easy to reach either, which is surprising since it would appear to be a site of major archaeological importance. Perhaps the most surprising aspect of this site is its sheer size. This would have been a very large city. The remains of this ancient city are not likely to impress anyone initially, but a good walk around might change your mind. You will need to park your vehicle on the main road and be prepared for a fairly long walk. The walls around the city are 3 kilometers long, and you'll need to get to the site first. The views from the top of the mountain are pretty spectacular, and the visitor gets to see why this site was chosen as a place to build a city. Strategically, it was well placed, and it would have been much easier to defend than the flatlands by the sea. Neandria started off as a Greek colony dating back to around 700 BC. In 399 BC, it became part of the Persian Empire, but by 310 BC, it had all but been abandoned. There is evidence to suggest that the inhabitants moved to Alexandria Troas by the sea. Alexander the Great roamed these lands with his armies, as did the Persians and the Romans. The city would have been under a number of rulers during its lifetime, but the exact history of Neandria is difficult to determine. This would have been a prosperous city in its heyday, and it minted its own bronze and silver coins, which have been found on the site. The first archaeological excavations were carried out by Frank Calvert in 1865, a British archaeologist who introduced Heinrich Schliemann to Troy. He owned a fine house and gardens in Çanakkale on land that is today the city park. In 1899, a German architect and archaeologist by the name of Robert Johann Koldewey spent some time here during just one season, and much of what we know is based on his findings. He was of the opinion that further work would have been rewarding, but unfortunately not much has happened since, and the site continues to weather the elements, as it has done for the past 2,500 years. Many of the ancient sites in this area would have been pillaged for their stone, and the stone would have been reused in the construction of mosques or important projects in Istanbul. The fact that Neandria is up on a mountainside in a remote location has been its saving grace. The defence walls are 1,400 metres long and 450 metres wide. Virtually the whole of the top plateau of the mountain would have contained the old city. The most important discovery in Neandria was the ruins of an Apollon temple, which would have been built around the 6th or 7th century. It is the oldest known example of a Greek temple in Asia Minor. The columns from this temple can be seen in the Archaeological Museum in Istanbul. There is also mention of an agora, a stadium and a theatre here at Neandria, but there is nothing to see today. The entire interior of Neandria within the city walls is just an abandoned plateau of around 40 hectares, which is littered with rocks and some masonry parts. Just what lies beneath the soil awaits discovery. Even the excavations that were carried out have now been covered over with soil blown around by the winds. Perhaps one day in the not too distant future, the site will attract the attention of historians and archaeologists once more. Until then, it will sit there under the sun and wait. If you found this video useful, please give us the thumbs up, or why not subscribe. Thanks for watching.